Good afternoon. This is a brief presentation on caffeine and what it is. Included in this presentation are the benefits of caffeine, a brief description, a brief history of what it is and where it came from, how caffeine works, some side effects, and how it could possibly be improved in the future. First off, the benefits of caffeine. Caffeine is a crystalline xanthine alkaloid and acts as a stimulant drug to the central nervous system of human beings. It causes alertness, wakefulness, and allows for better focus. Caffeine is generally consumed in beverages such as coffee, tea, and soft drinks. It can also be taken by a pill, tablet, and in some cases through different types of food. In modern society, caffeine is consumed daily and generally has low health risks, and in some cases can help fight certain types of cancer or other diseases, although this is rare. Although this is true, there are still side effects of caffeine, which we will get to later. But on the plus side, caffeine has been known to also help with premature side defects and multiple diseases such as different types of cancers, type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, cardiovascular disease, and in some cases, anxiety disorders. Although this may be true, it is only in rare cases and not all. So caffeine is not a miracle drug, it is just helpful in some cases. Next is a brief description and a brief history of what caffeine is and where it came from. First off, the brief history. In 1820, a German scientist named Friedrich Runge first isolated caffeine from coffee. However, this would not be the only time this happened. Two other French scientists individually replicated Runge's findings without having any knowledge of his experiments. So in a sense, caffeine was discovered twice by two different groups of scientists. This, however, could relate to the fact that the discovery of caffeine was no surprise, due to the fact that caffeine had been used around the world for many years beforehand. Caffeine had been used in products such as coffee and tea, in societies all around the world, such as ancient China, back at the time of Native American tribes, and some African countries, and other places in the Middle East. This, being that caffeine had been used for many, many years beforehand, it made it no surprise once it had been discovered, and some of the effects of what it was. So, caffeine was not the biggest discovery once it was. Now, caffeine itself is a white, odorless, and bitter, and it is available in powders or in needles. Its bioavailability is 99%. It can be found in plant leaves or in seeds all around the world, which is partially why it was used all around the world in different countries and different parts. As mentioned earlier, caffeine is helpful in some cases. However, when it is consumed in large portions, it can be very toxic, which we will explain in more detail later on. But for some background information, caffeine blocks the creation of the hormone adenosine, which helps humans sleep and deals with energy levels, including the levels of ATP in the body. And, next off, that is partially how caffeine works. When caffeine controls the amount of ATP, or the amount of energy that is being produced and converted throughout the body, it is able to convert how much the alertness and awakeness of the person who is consuming it, which is what makes it the stimulant drug that we mentioned it was earlier. Caffeine is a water-soluble and lipid-soluble, and it easily passes through the bloodstream into the brain. Because it is easy to access the brain cells, and a structural formula similar to adenosine, caffeine attaches itself to adenosine-producing cells and prevents them from creating the hormone. Caffeine acts as a competitive inhibitor in this case. Again, although caffeine does have some pluses to what it is, it still has side effects. Although caffeine can be a very useful drug, it has side effects and can in some cases be dangerous to people with certain conditions, particularly, as mentioned earlier, when consumed in large portions. Caffeine can cause insomnia, nervousness, restlessness, stomach irritation, nausea and vomiting, increased heart rate, and respiration. Larger doses, as mentioned earlier again, might cause headache, anxiety, agitation, chest pain, and ringing in the ears. Unsafe consumption of caffeine can be dangerous for people who are diabetic, pregnant, breastfeeding, have bleeding disorders, heart conditions, high blood pressure, weak bones, and so on. Although it was mentioned earlier that caffeine can be helpful to people with diabetes, it still does become dangerous when it is consumed in large portions. Generally, a large portion would be something over 8 cups within an hour, 8 cups of coffee. Over that is when the body starts reacting negatively to the product. So it is always safe to avoid such side effects, which can be lethal, by limiting the amount of caffeine that is consumed within a day. Now, as technology advances, and so do drugs and many other products around the world, one product that could possibly become more advanced is caffeine. Now, caffeine in a sense, many people would say is good enough as it is now, although it does have some side effects, particularly when it's consumed in large portions, causes problems such as insomnia, nervousness, restlessness, and so on. It could possibly become better by possibly figuring out a way to avoid these side effects and possibly extract them from caffeine somehow. Now, for the future, caffeine lovers may ask, how may such a useful drug become more perfect? Perhaps it can be more specified, so it only affects part of the brain that produces adenosine, nothing else. Maybe it can become more advanced in products such as coffee, so that maybe something such as frequent bathroom trips do not become a side effect of the product. That would also reduce the risks of the product for people with bone problems, since it wouldn't affect the digestion of calcium, which is actually what creates the problem for people with bone disorders. So, once side effects such as that are eliminated, perhaps more people can consume it in portions that they would like to. Now, even though the caffeine does have side effects, it will be used more commonly in the future and continue to expand as a product, as it already has in today's world. In today's world, what we have moved from in the past to today's world was many countries around the world only started off using using caffeine in products such as coffee and tea. 2 basic products, which are still used today. But from then until now, we have started using caffeine in more products such as energy drinks, soft drinks. We have been able to dilute it down to a pill. We have actually found a way to integrate it into foods and other products that make it more easily consumed to the favor of what people like. So that is it for caffeine and what it is. Some small facts about caffeine and what it is, how it can be helpful, how it can be dangerous, especially when consumed in large portions, as mentioned many times before. And hopefully what people can hope to see out of caffeine in the future. Hope you enjoyed the presentation of caffeine and are more safe and cautious and hopefully more educated about the product, what it is, and how it can be used in modern day society. Thanks.